There are thousands of people in Pennsylvania who are on welfare because they truly need it. But not everyone. We learned during this investigation it's possible to win big in the lottery and still collect your tax dollars. The Department of Public Welfare, DPW, could stop this from happening, but it's not. Judging by that big smile on Jamie Frankfurt's face, this had to be one of the happiest days of her life. It was January 2012, and the Lancaster County resident had just won $330,000 in the Pennsylvania lottery. But that big smile was somehow missing when we went to talk to her about her winnings.
Turn that camera off, please, and get off my property.
We're not on your property, ma'am. When Frankfurt hit big on Cash 5, it just continued her lucky streak. Since July of 2009, she has won $344,000. Prior to this picture, Frankfurt was collecting welfare, including daycare and medical assistance. Afterwards, she kept collecting. Did you declare it to DPW? Under state law, welfare recipients must report lottery winnings to DPW. Benefits are then adjusted. These confidential court documents obtained by CBS 21 are from a custody dispute between Frankfurt and one of her children's fathers. Under oath on May 31st of this year, Frankfurt admitted she didn't tell the state she won the money. She was asked by counsel, quote, "You didn't pick up the phone and say, 'Guess what, taxpayers of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? I have $247,000 net in my bank account.'" Frankfurt responded, "No." Do you think it's right that the taxpayer should be subsidizing when you win that much money in the lottery? Man, what did you do with that money? Can you just roll down your window and answer a few of our questions? Frankfurt wasn't willing to give us comment, so we went to the person in charge to find out how this can happen. How would the state not know? She won it from the state.
Because we don't have systems to talk to each other.
Why?
Because it costs a lot of money. We're getting there.
But would it save a lot of money?
It may save some money.
Secretary Beverly McElrath said DPW's budget for technology is slim and its programs antiquated, meaning people can win big in the lottery and the welfare department would never find out.
When we get to the part where the budget is passed and they come back and say DPW cut $400 million, a lot of times the IT budgets are cut.
McElrath said sometimes it simply costs too much money to try to find people like Frankfurt. That explains how her winnings were not discovered by DPW. But it doesn't explain how Frankfurt can continue to collect your tax dollars to this day, even though the state now knows. Well, that part is legal. Under state law, lottery winnings are not considered income, but rather a lump sum that only affects certain benefits for that month. So even though Frankfurt can afford this Akron home for $143,500 and this Dodge Journey, she is still welfare eligible.
We can do better. I'm not going to sit here and tell you we're doing a great job with this. The message is clear. And we can do better, and we're going to do better.
McElrath admits the state has a lot of work to do, considering the only reason DPW knows this woman hit the lottery is because of this woman. Tilly Tegmeyer is the future stepmother of Frankfurt's son, and she blew the whistle.
I just don't understand it. You can go on TV and hold a great big check, with a smile on your face, but you can't tell the state, oh, by the way, you don't need to continue to pay for my children. I can handle that now.
You see this house here behind me? It's a nice home. It's 3 stories, all brick. It's on the National Registry of Historic Places and was recently updated and renovated. It was also just put on the market by its owner, who's a former state representative. And this caught our attention, but not because of who owns the home, but rather who may have paid for it.
I'm disgusted. We're struggling. Barely making it, and somebody's going to go ahead and do that. It's just wrong.
Those harsh words from Susan Newcomb are directed towards her neighbor, former state representative James Wanzak.
You're just taking advantage of the people.
Newcomb's husband is out of work. The couple has 5 kids and can barely afford their mortgage. And she just found out her home loan may not be the only one she's been paying. Does this surprise you, though, that somebody would find a loophole in the system like that?
No.
From 2000 to 2010, James Wanzak represented the 114th House District near Scranton, about 130 miles from Harrisburg. Through right-to-know requests, we learned the taxpayer was pretty good to him. In his 10 years, he amassed more than $72,000 in pension and still gets more than $25,000 a year in health benefits. But what has garnered Newcomb's ire is how Representative Wanzak apparently used the per diem system. Per diem is tax-free money our elected leaders get as a reimbursement for expenses, such as food and hotel. In October of 2003, former Representative Wanzak bought this house on South 2nd Street in Harrisburg for $72,000. Yet he still charged taxpayers per diem when he came to the Capitol, even though he stayed in his own home. During his time in office, he collected nearly $163,000 in per diem to cover his expenses, which would include his mortgage. A few weeks ago, Wanzak put the 3-bedroom home on the market for $124,900, a nearly $53,000 profit. What do you think that he should do with the money, the profit he'll make from selling that house?
It should go back to the people.
Despite the online listing calling this property a unique opportunity, legislators buying homes in Harrisburg and charging per diem is not rare. This duplex on South Street, this Green Street row home, and this rancher in Susquehanna Township all had legislative owners. Under the current system, lawmakers who live within 50 miles of the Capitol are not eligible for per diem, but secondary homes are exempt, so this is legal. But some question whether it should be.
I don't think anybody imagined that a per diem would wind up being used as an investment vehicle.
Eric Epstein is with Rock the Capitol, a government watchdog group.
This is one of those issues that we haven't really explored before.
CBS 21 filed right-to-know requests that show lawmakers last year collected $1.8 million just in per diems. Epstein says since they don't have to hand in receipts, that money can be used for anything, including mortgages.
I think a lot of people, when they view this segment and they learn that there are legislators that have used their per diems, which, hey, fine, to offset expenses, have actually used some of them to make mortgage payments on a home, which they later sell and make a profit, that's going to raise some eyebrows.
Wanzak is now a commissioner in Lackawanna County, but in 2010, before leaving Harrisburg, he defended this practice, telling a local paper, using per diems to pay mortgages is no different than being reimbursed for hotel rooms or apartments. He also said this about the 2,037 square foot brick home, quote, "It's not like a great house. It's a place where I sleep." CBS 21 reached out to Commissioner Wanzak for further comments since he's now selling the house and stands to make a profit, but he wouldn't take our calls. So we drove to Scranton to attend a county commissioners meeting. During public comment, I addressed the board. My question is for Commissioner Wanzak concerning the house that you own on South 2nd Street in Harrisburg. The $53,000 in profit that you would make if you sell it for what you're selling for, should you keep that money or should it go back to the taxpayer who you charged in per diem to stay in that house? I was then told I had to sit down for my question to be answered.
We give the opportunity for all the public to address the commissioners and then we'll respond appropriately afterwards.
For the rest of the meeting, I waited for that response, which never came. But at the very end, Wanzak did say this, which we assume was directed towards us.
And unfortunately, I mean, what we've seen here today, guys, is we've seen politics start to creep into Lackawanna County. You know, that's what we're going to see over the next 3 to 4 months is personal attacks and a bunch of nonsense and taking facts and distorting them because that's what sounds good.
Now, not only is Wanzak trying to sell this house for a profit, but apparently over the years, he's also been renting it out. His real estate agent tells CBS 21 some of the tenants include current lawmakers and also former lawmakers. Now, on the online listing for the house, it says this first floor apartment has been renting for $525 a month and the upper apartment for $825 a month. The name James Ellison is well known in Harrisburg. Over the past decade, he's been heavily involved in local politics. But the powerful reputation he built took a hit recently when Chester County announced an investigation into whether Ellison overcharged taxpayers as solicitor for Coatesville School District. But Ellison had also been a school attorney in Dauphin County. We looked into it, but there's no active investigation into his work here. So we did our own investigation, but we start our story in Chester County.
Since I've been a school solicitor, I know how things should look. Since I have worked with school districts, I know how things should look. Since I've been a partner in a law firm, I know how things should look.
And this is not how things should look.
This is not how things should look.
The things Chester County District Attorney Thomas Hogan is talking about involve this man, James Ellison, formerly of the Harrisburg law firm Rhodes & Sinan. The DA is leading a criminal investigation into whether, quote, Coatesville taxpayers were defrauded through the payment of improper legal fees and expenses.
Coatesville is our poorest school district. Coatesville is our lowest performing school district. If there was any school district that couldn't afford to have money taken away from it, it's Coatesville.
Hogan's investigation found, in part, that Ellison charged Coatesville more than $2.8 million over the past 3 years, while neighboring districts paid a fraction of that amount to their solicitors in the same time period. CBS 21 asked school officials what Ellison did to earn that money, but no one would tell us. Ellison is still Coatesville's solicitor. School board president Neil Campbell defended Ellison's employment at a board meeting last month, saying this in reference to the investigation.
It's very difficult for us to even think about changing generals in the middle of what we're dealing with. When you bring in another law firm, there are so many things that have to be redone. I do not want to burden this district and this community and the taxpayers anymore.
Ellison's role as a school solicitor extends beyond Chester County. From 2005 to 2010, he worked for Central Dauphin. Documents obtained by CBS 21 through right-to-know requests show from the fall of 2007 to spring of 2010, Ellison charged CD nearly $1.7 million. Meanwhile, in that same time period, Lower Dauphin paid $66,000 to its solicitor, Upper Dauphin $123,000, Susquehanna Township $148,000, and Harrisburg $390,000. We also learned that Ellison, for part of 2010, worked as outside counsel for Dauphin County's poorest district, Harrisburg, and in that time charged taxpayers $791,000. Late this afternoon, shortly before airtime, we received invoices from Harrisburg School District that Ellison filed in 2010. The redacted documents show Ellison charged the district mostly for, quote, general issues. A few of his other charges indicate a conference or meeting. CBS 21 also contacted Central Dauphin to find out exactly what work Ellison did to justify his fees there. But we were told those invoices were not available.
Should be looked into because there's a good chance where there's smoke, there's fire.
Jay Purdy is a former candidate for Central Dauphin School Board. During his campaign in the fall, he publicly called for the Dauphin County DA to join Chester County in this investigation into Ellison.
I sure want it looked into, and the taxpayers should want it looked into because there may be money that can come back to the district.
What'd you hear back?
Zip.
You heard nothing back?
Nothing back.
To find out why Purdy's calls for an investigation went unanswered, we asked Dauphin County District Attorney Ed Marsico.
We're keeping in touch with the Chester County DA as their investigation progresses. If necessary, we'll take appropriate action here.
A few days later, we sat down with Marsico upon his request and showed him the bill totals we uncovered. We asked the district attorney to comment on the billing amounts.
It's striking to see these numbers you're giving me, Chris. It's certainly some huge numbers that bear probably some explaining.
Ellison no longer works for Rhodes & Sinan. Their 17-year relationship ended in December. The firm declined to provide CBS 21 with a statement, but we were able to track down Ellison at a Coatesville school board meeting. Can we just ask you a few questions quickly about your time as solicitor for Central Dauphin? Ellison declined our request and quickly exited backstage. Can you just answer a few questions on why your fees were so much higher than area school districts in Dauphin County? We followed the solicitor through the school, trying to get him on record. But all he said was this.
At this point, I have no comment.
I wouldn't say it's suspicious, just that it deserves looking into. Give us an answer. Was it wrong or it wasn't wrong?
Social Security disability insurance is a lifeline for millions who can't work, but like many federal programs, it's running out of money as enrollment numbers are now at record levels. As lawmakers in Washington try to fix the problem, much of the focus has centered on the judges who grant the benefits. And the judge who has granted the most benefits in America, amounting to billions of your tax dollars, is right here in Harrisburg.
I had a kidney transplant in 2004. Okay. It's rejecting.
The past decade for Kim Sullivan has been a struggle for her health.
Both my hips had to be replaced. My immune system went way down. I got shingles and had to be hospitalized. A blood clot in my fistula. I had squamous cell carcinoma that just had to be removed.
A few years ago, Sullivan's medical condition forced her to quit her job of 30 years. As she waits for a new kidney, her medical bills are mounting.
If I could, I would continue to work.
With her money running out, the 55-year-old recently applied for Social Security disability insurance. She was denied and has appealed. Now her case goes before a federal disability judge, and Harrisburg's Charles Bridges is the judge she wants. Since 2005, according to Social Security Administration statistics, Judge Bridges has awarded disability benefits to more than 15,000 people, by far the most of any judge in the country, an amount roughly 6 times the average and nearly double that of America's next highest active judge. With an estimated lifetime benefit of $300,000 per recipient, Judge Bridges has personally awarded approximately $4.6 billion in taxpayer dollars. Judge Bridges declined an interview with CBS 21 News. His lawyer sent us a statement saying the judge has filed a civil rights lawsuit against the Social Security Administration and is unwilling to comment. There's certain judges you would rather have over others.
Absolutely. No question about that.
Deborah Wallet is Sullivan's disability attorney.
Something must be wrong because each of those judges is supposed to be applying the same law. Grant rate ought to be about the same.
But our investigation revealed that's not the case. There are 1,500 disability judges in America, 75 in Pennsylvania. The average grant rate is 40%, but some judges like Bridges grant benefits at more than twice that percentage, while others like Leslie Perry Dowdle in Pittsburgh grant it less than half the average.
I have no explanation for the variation.
To try to get an explanation, we contacted the SSA, but received this response, quote, "We cannot address Judge Bridges' approval numbers, as this is an internal personnel issue." The SSA did tell us, however, that disability judges are appointed for life and are granted, quote, decisional independence, which protects them from disciplinary measures, including removal, suspension, or reduction in grade or pay.
We know that this system is at a tipping point.
Currently, 11 million Americans receive disability, a 45% increase in the last decade. With taxpayers shelling out $128 billion annually, the trust fund is scheduled to run out of money in 2 years. If that happens, everyone on disability will see their benefits reduced, which has caught the attention of lawmakers.
If we do not aggressively deal with the fraud, we will see those in greatest need put in tremendous risk.
This is video of recent testimony in Washington with the chief disability judge for Pennsylvania.
Without being specific to Judge Bridges, we cannot tell a judge how to decide a case.
Judge Jasper Bede declined an interview with CBS 21 News, but he admitted to Congress that Judge Bridges' rulings were, quote, an embarrassment, and he has inappropriately awarded benefits. But he also said policy and management makes him powerless to do anything about it.
If there is a judge that's out there that is not held to account, and there's not a good process to hold someone to account in that, we need to find a way to do that. All of us have accountability, all of us.
If I don't get a kidney soon, I'm going to start dialysis.
As Washington battles over how to save the disability fund, people like Sullivan are left battling for their lives. She expects her appeal to go before a judge sometime this winter. Until then, all she and her attorney can do is wait and hope.
Unfortunately, we don't have any control over who we get as the judge.
Our welfare system is designed to help people who have fallen on hard times, but we've all seen those stories where someone has cheated the system or where people have cheated the system and it amounts to tens of millions of dollars every year. But now a whistleblower has come forward to say it's the state's fault for creating a decades-long culture of fraud.
It is deeply flawed.
This woman has quite the story to tell.
It's a circus.
For the past 5 years, she has seen the inner workings of Pennsylvania's most funded, yet most secretive department, public welfare. As a caseworker, it was her job to issue benefits based on eligibility. So for obvious reasons, she can't be identified.
You were told in training not to talk to the media?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Why do you think that is?
Oh, they just don't want the details of what goes on getting out.
Details like this.
The people that have worked there forever will tell you things like, just close your eyes and authorize, and when in doubt, give it out.
After college, this PA native wanted to give back by helping people get back onto their feet. But she quickly got frustrated by a deep-rooted culture she didn't expect.
Programs are supposed to create self-sufficiency, but the way that everything is set up, it just enables the complete opposite.
Now she's had enough, quit her job, and is blowing the whistle, saying what's really happening to your tax dollars.
There's only so much of this you can take.
At $11 billion a year, Pennsylvania spends 40% of its budget just on public welfare. But the benefits are not simply given out. The state does have requirements like job training. But our whistleblower says the rules are not enforced and information is not checked for truth.
I always joke, you could have the family dog write the statement and stamp his paw on it, and we would accept it.
But what might surprise you most is how the system handles fraud. This woman says she was encouraged to look the other way. She remembers a time when she caught a client lying, and her supervisor reprimanded her.
That supervisor wrote on my first EPR, needs to work more on finding people eligible instead of not eligible.
Governor Corbett, he would be appalled at the stories I'm appalled at the stories you're telling me.
Beverly McArath is the Pennsylvania Secretary of Public Welfare.
This is not the way it's supposed to be.
When McArath took over DPW in February, she knew there were cultural and systemic issues, but not like this.
These are taxpayer dollars. Don't you know where they're going?
We can't look at every case. We don't look at every case. We look at trends.
And it's not hard to see why. At 17,000 employees, DPW is larger than many Fortune 500 companies, and it distributes assistance to 2.8 million Pennsylvanians. These 14 states don't even have that many people. McArath says with numbers that large, waste, fraud, and abuse oftentimes goes undetected.
Does that surprise you?
Not at all.
Nathan Benefield is with the Commonwealth Foundation, a government watchdog group.
For a long time, that has been the culture in the Department of Public Welfare of trying to add more people to the rolls and celebrating that fact.
Benefield points to a 2010 study by the Auditor General that found Medicaid alone wastes a whopping $1 billion annually. The AG found 15% of all payments are in error.
You've got to change the culture there of waste, fraud, and abuse, because that is taking money out of the pockets of taxpayers and even risking the social safety net for those who truly need it.
We want our staff to ensure that the people that are entitled to the benefits get them, and the people that are not don't, period.
But remember our whistleblower? That's not the message she received.
It's just authorize them and just be done with it.
Find a way to get them their assistance.
Yeah.
That's not acceptable. But unless I know who that is, I can't do anything. Tell them they need to contact me. I mean, that's all we've got to fix it. But people can't be afraid to come forward or we'll never know.